Okay. Now I think everyone can hear me. So if you're watching, maybe give me a comment or something if you can hear. I think I had some technical issue. I see a few comments there of people saying there was no sound. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks, Cannon. Thanks, JC Gurry. Thanks, Alyssa. Thanks, everybody, for telling me. Sorry. All right, so I'm going to start over. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Powerhouse Fence Show. I'm Dan Turbyville. I'm your host, and I'm sitting here by myself tonight. Ilaria is gone to Italy for her wedding. And so I don't have anybody to swap cameras, or actually, the first time I did this said to make sure that the audio is working. So hopefully it was good. And I see that did not work out. But anyways, so our show's brought to you by Memphis Fence Company, MFC Manufacturing, Simpalo, and the Thornton Fence Consulting Group. Normally, we have a link to their events, to the Thornton Fence Consulting Group events in our description. Oh, Alyssa said not for her wedding. When is she getting married? Isn't she getting married in Italy sometime? Oh, man, I always mess up everything. Anyways, maybe just, I guess, just for Christmas then. Sorry. Yeah, so normally there's a link in the description for the Thornton Fence Consulting Group events. I don't know if it made it in there or not this week. Yeah, so Ilaria is in Italy for Christmas. Okay, thank you. Um, so I am live, obviously. I didn't put the phone number on there tonight because I don't want to deal with trying to answer the phone and try to get that in the show and all that stuff. I want to give a shout out to Brad Williams. So he sent with Structured to Grow. I had a meeting with him last week, I think. We spent some time talking about a bunch of different things. He's going to come on the show in January, and so that'll be a cool episode. But he sent me a book. I don't know if his book's available or not, but he sent it to me, and so I'm excited to get into that thing and check it out and see what it's about. I want to thank everybody for listening. As usual, thank you for being here. We do it for you. This is like, we're getting close to the end of our second year. I mean, we've been doing it for 18 months, and so hopefully somebody's benefiting from this thing. But it's fun. I like doing it, and it's cool to run into people every now and then that are like, "Hey, I listened to your show," stuff like that. It's pretty cool. We will be at FinStech 2025 coming up in, I believe, late February in Salt Lake City. So if you can make it out there, that's always a good show. I would definitely recommend people going to that. If you're here in the local area, the Memphis Tri-State Fence Association is the name of our local AFA chapter, and they're having their late Christmas dinner on January 18th. They pushed it back a little bit because there was a lot of people that had scheduling conflicts with the first date, and so it got pushed back there towards the end of January. For our Simpalo story of the week, I don't have really anything too exciting to report. The developers have pushed some new stuff out to the like test environment. They did that today, and so I get to go in there and play around with it, and we'll test it all out and make sure everything's good before it gets pushed out to production. So that's pretty exciting. Um, yeah, so Ilaria's gone. We're not going to do an Italian word this week. Sorry, everyone who tuned in just to hear that. JC Gurry says we'll see you in Salt Lake City. Looking forward to it. So the topic of the show for this week is change. And I'm going to go ahead and get back into this for the second time. And now that everyone can hear me. So what I was saying, I looked up change and I was really surprised to see just how many different definitions there were for the word change. And so that's what I was showing here on the Merriam-Webster website, is just all the different definitions that they had. So I wrote a few of them down to, obviously to make something radically different, to give a different position, course, or direction to, right? So you're going to change the course of something, to replace with another, to shift from one to another, to undergo a modification of, to become different, undergo transformation, transition, or substitution, And then when it comes to the moon, to pass from one phase to another is change. Oh, sorry, the update things there. So, anyways, a lot of different definitions of change, and I think when people in general think about change, you have a few different mindsets, right? So you have some people that are scared or they're intimidated by change. Um, it's it can be scary sometimes, right? And then you get multiple things that change all at one time, and that can be like extra scary. And then, some people are just resistant to it. They're just not interested in it at all. You'll get the people that are of the mindset, hey, I've done this like this for the past 20 or 30 years or whatever that is. I guess could be 6 months, right? And I'm not going to try it a different way. This is the way I know. This is the way I'm doing it. I'm not going to step out of that comfort zone and try something else. And then you get the people who they they can look towards the future and they see change before it gets here, and so those people get on that like leading edge of changes, right? And then you have some people that accept it when it's here and they're okay with it. And then you get the some people that never realize change until they're looking back in the rearview mirror and they see it happened and it's too late for them. So, they were driving along and there was a curve and they didn't realize the curve and they shot straight off the end and they didn't see it until it's in the mirror, right? So not a good place to be, obviously. So I have prepared something that I've never done on this show. It's definitely a little bit different than normal. I just saw someone commented their WhatsApp number. Interesting. So that's a little different than normal too. Um, but yeah, so I've got some stuff here that's a little different than what we've ever done here. So I want to go through some examples of change that have happened throughout history and kind of take a look at how this is relevant, right? So if any of you listen, I like the Founders podcast, and a lot of it is looking at. I think he describes it as like history's greatest entrepreneurs. So they look at a lot of things throughout history, and he reads people's autobiographies and things like that, and he kind of just shows what other people did. Uh, yeah, we're not doing calls. Sorry, you'll have to come back next week. So first of all, we are here in the United States, right? And so the founding fathers back on July 4th in 1776 signed the Declaration of Independence. Now you want to talk about some change. Like I sometimes think about that and try to put myself in that position and like, I mean, that's wild that they were just like, no, we're tired of this government. We're tired of living the life that we've been living. And so we're going to start our own. Thanks, but no thanks. So that's a pretty crazy one, right? So there's a guy named William C. Durant. I believe he went by Bill Durant. This information comes from Wikipedia. I think that's kind of like open source or whatever. So hopefully I'm allowed to just read stuff off of there. But anyways, I'm doing it. So in 1886, Bill Durant partnered with a guy named Josiah Dallas Dort, and they founded the Flint Road Cart Company. All right. So they started with $2,000 of startup capital and they turned it into a $2 million company, which is 69 million in 2023 dollars, with worldwide sales. By 1890, the Durant Dort Carriage Company, based in Flint, had become a leading manufacturer of horse-drawn vehicles. By the start of the 20th century, it was the largest in the United States. All right. So Bill Durant was very skeptical of automobiles. He thought that the bad smell of burnt fuel, along with the engine's loud sounds, made them inherently dangerous to the point where he would not let his daughter ride in one. By 1900, public outcry over weak government regulations of gasoline-powered horseless carriages was significant, and Durant noticed the general public's anger in the situation. Rather than relying on the government regulations to improve their safety, he saw it as an opportunity to create a company which could improve the safety of this new class of transportation. To begin this massive endeavor, Durant first set out to purchase Buick, the local car company with few sales and large debt. Um, And so he also went on and conceived the modern system of automobile dealer franchises. Okay, so William Durant started General Motors, right? So you see, he was he owned, him and another one or two people maybe, owned the largest horse-drawn carriage manufacturing company in the United States, and built these great grand horse-drawn carriages, and he just left that behind and went directly into auto manufacturing, right? So I didn't do any research on this, but from what I understand, a lot of people in the early days of cars looked at them as something that, like, a novelty maybe, or something that would never catch on. I mean, you saw here that he thought that the bad smell of the burnt fuel and the engine's loud noises just made them dangerous, and he wouldn't let his daughter even ride in one. So they kind of got a bad rap early on, right? And this guy left his horse-drawn carriage company and started General Motors. And we all know General Motors now, right? We know the rest. Well, I mean, we know where it wound up. We may not know the rest of the story, but I mean, that was a guy that was looking forward, saw the change coming, and embraced it and ran with it, right? Now, there's still some horse-drawn carriages today, sure. Depending on where you are in the country, like, you might see some going down the road every once in a while. You see them in parades, you see them in museums, all of this stuff, but I doubt they sell as many as GM sells vehicles. So there's you an example of a guy who rolled with the change. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Henry Ford. And this information also came from his Wikipedia page. Yeah, another automotive manufacturer. I know. Sorry, but they're a good example. So I think that Ford has a really fascinating history. I buy Ford vehicles today because of how fascinating the history of Ford is. I don't know. I just think that it's really interesting, and so I've bought them. So in 1892, Ford built his first motor car. It was powered by a two-cylinder, 4 horsepower motor. It was connected. I'm going to read this. It's kind of technical. Sorry, just bear with me. It was connected to a counter shaft by a belt and then to the rear wheel by a chain. The belt was shifted by a clutch lever to control speeds at 10 or 20 miles per hour. It was augmented by a throttle. It had 28-inch wire bicycle wheels with rubber tires, a foot brake, 3-gallon gas. In the spring of Henry Ford said, in the spring of 1893, the machine was running to my partial satisfaction and giving an opportunity for an opportunity further to test out the design and material on the road. Between 1895 and 1896, he drove the machine 1,000 miles, and he started his second car in 1896 and eventually built 3 of them in his home workshop. All right, so leading up to this, Henry Ford, he worked as an engineer for Thomas Edison at the Edison Illuminating Company of Detroit. There's stories about when he was like a 10 or 12-year-old kid, he wound up with a watch. I think it was maybe like one of the neighbors gave it to him or something like that. And he took the watch apart and put it back together a bunch of times. And he was really fascinated by all the moving parts and the mechanics of it and everything like that. So he was interested in that side of things. And he was really interested in the gasoline engine, right? So that was one of his big focuses. So when he was working at the Edison Illuminating Company of Detroit, he was encouraged by Thomas Edison, and he designed and built a second vehicle, which he completed in 1898. And then, backed by the capital of the Detroit lumber baron, William H. Murphy, Ford resigned from Edison's company and founded the Detroit Automobile Company on August 5th, 1899. So here's him founding an automobile company on August 5th, 1899. However, the automobiles produced were of low quality and higher price than Ford wanted. Ultimately, the company was dissolved in January of 1901. All right, so a swing and a miss, right? So he's built 3 cars himself at his house, and now he started one company. So then, with the help of C. Harold Willis, he designed, built, and raced a 26 horsepower automobile on October 1901. So there was a lot of stuff in there about races and things like that. I think they were a big part of early automotive history, right? So with this success, Murphy and the other stockholders in the Detroit Automobile Company founded the Henry Ford Company on November 30th, 1901. So later that same year, Ford was actually the chief engineer. And in 1902, Murphy brought in Henry Leland as a consultant. Ford, in response, left the company. So then Leland renamed that company the Cadillac Automobile Company. All right. So that's two. So now Ford's been at two different auto manufacturers, and one of them was dissolved because it was not successful. The second one, he got mad. I don't know the story behind this consultant that he brought in, but Ford got mad at the consultant and he just left. So then he received backing from an old acquaintance, Alexander Malcolmson, which was a Detroit area coal dealer. They formed a partnership, Ford and Malcolmson Limited, to manufacture automobiles. It was later reincorporated as the Ford Motor Company. Eventually, Henry Ford went on to own 100% of it. But it was his third attempt at starting an auto manufacturer, and it actually worked. All right. And so that's pretty crazy, right? So I don't know how that's related to change, right? But that is definitely related to being afraid of things. So not only did he fail the first time and then left the second time, and then finally on the third attempt, he started the company that turned into what Ford is today. Um, there's a lot of really fascinating things that happened with them building the modern tractor Henry Ford invented. The way that a tractor is built today, with the if you know anything about tractors, the engine, transmission, and rear end are basically a tractor. It has a cab or seat or whatever mounted to the top of it, but he made tractors the way that they are today. He There's some stories about him. There was a aircraft company, Ford. I don't remember the name of it, but he designed airplanes as well. And so I think there's some stories about how he built a plane in a certain way that could fly at some altitude, and it like made people feel safer flying. And then I think the plane crashed and everyone from the plane crash walked away. And so that really like boosted commercial airlines. So he was involved in that thing. I mean, he was involved in a bunch of stuff. But in 1914, here's you some change. 1914, he introduced the $5 daily wage, which in 2023 was $152. So that more than doubled the rate of most of the people that worked for Ford. So doubled the rate of every employee that worked at Ford. Well, not every, but most of them in 1914. So that's only 13 years after Ford started. So then it said that the move proved to be extremely profitable. Instead of the constant turnover, the best mechanics in the area then flocked to Ford. They brought their human capital, their expertise, they raised productivity, and they lowered training cost. So all of these benefits came from him paying people more, right? So he paid more than everybody else. So he also introduced a new reduced work week in 1926. That's when they introduced the 40-hour work week. Originally, it said it was supposed to be 6 8-hour days, and then they reduced it down to 5 8-hour days. And so that's what set the standard for the modern 40-hour work week that we have today. So there's also some crazy change. And I don't remember all the details about how people worked before this, but I think people were working like 12 or 14-hour days, 7 days a week, and like barely getting enough money to, make it and things like that. And Ford was really big on like local economies, and he wanted people to have enough time off of work that they could go out and spend money in the local economy. He wanted them to have enough money that they could go spend money in the local economy. So all of this is like radical change, right? Remember, one of the definitions was to make radically different. And so these are definitely examples of things that were made radically different and continues on today, right? So the next one is Sam Walton, or Walmart. So this information that I got and put in here is from a website. It's called CIO.com. And I don't know what the website is, honestly, but this is an article that was on there. It was called 45 Years of Walmart History, a Technology Timeline. And in this article is from 2007. So in 1962, the first Walmart stores opened. Um, Sam Walton's history is pretty interesting. He was involved in some other stores before. I don't remember the name of them, but I think he bought into like a couple of franchise stores before. And I think he also had like some failed attempts in retail and stuff like that before he finally got it right at Walmart. And I believe he was later in life than what I would have thought, anyways. And I don't remember how old he was when he started it. But, anyways, 1962, opened the first store. All right. So, fast forward, 1975, they have 125 stores, 340.3 million in annual sales in 1975. So, what do? So he leases an IBM 370 135 computer system to maintain inventory control for all merchandise in the warehouse and distribution centers and to prepare income statements for each store. All right, so now he has financial data for each one of the stores that a computer is preparing for him. He has inventory controls in place, and this is in 1975. He also put electronic cash registers in more than 100 of the Walmart stores to record point of sale data and maintain inventory. All right, so now he's got these computers in place that are collecting data and helping to maintain inventory, right? So all of this to me, it just says know your numbers. Right. So this is how Walmart was doing it. And I don't remember, I listened to some stuff about Sam Walton one time. I can't remember how much money they spent on this, but it was something astronomical. The amount of money that they were spending putting these computers and this cutting edge technology in place, right? And so that's what all of this stuff is. Really, it's about the change is really adapting the technology of the time. And so for Walmart, it was computers. So then 1977, Walmart built a company-wide computer network and they deployed a system for ordering merchandise from suppliers. So first of all, they computerized their own inventory in their warehouses and distribution centers. And then they did, put in the electronic cash registers, which would basically probably just like track the sales and stuff like that. They weren't scanning barcodes. They weren't doing any of that. And then 2 years later, they have this company-wide computer network, and it's somehow, you know, improving the efficiency whenever they're trying to order merchandise from suppliers and things like that. So then in 1979, Walmart sales top 1.2 billion, making it the first company to reach more than $1 billion in sales in a mere 17 years. The company now built their own computer center and they installed the first terminal in a store, which was an IBM 3774. I don't know anything about those computers or anything else, but I mean, it's pretty crazy that this is still in 1979 and they were 1.2 billion in sales in 1979. That's wild. So now 1983, they started scanning barcodes. So that's when the barcode started happening and went into their point of sale system. I'm curious about the invention of barcodes now. I don't know when they were added to products, but anyways. So in 1984, store associates started using Texlon handheld terminals when ordering merchandise. All right, so 1984, they have some sort of handheld computer device that they're using to reorder merchandise. It says upon scanning a shelf label, the unit provided a description of the merchandise, information on prior quantities ordered, and other data. 1984, and they're running around with little computers in their hands. I didn't even know that that was a thing that was possible in 1984. 1987, Walmart completes what is at the time the largest private satellite communication network in the US. It links all operating units of the company and the headquarters with two-way voice, data, and one-way video connection. In 1987, They have their own satellite network. A check-in system was designed to take full advantage of container barcode labeling. It's in the back of every Walmart store. 1992, they deploy a retail link system that strengthened supplier partnerships. It provided vendor information on sale trends and inventory levels. 1996, they make retail link and EDI available via the internet and begin using the internet as an application platform. So this is 1996, and they're utilizing the internet, and they launched online stores for both Walmart and Sam's Club. I don't know the first time that I bought something on the internet, but I can tell you it was probably some years after that before I ever did it. That's crazy. 2004, Walmart announced it's going to start using RFID technology on January 1st, 2005. In 2007, they launched site to store service, enabling online customers to pick up merchandise in stores. So in 2007, you could order something on the Walmart's website and then go pick it up in the store. So crazy stuff, right? I mean, that's one of the big things that Sam Walton always, that people talk about with Sam Walton, was embracing technology and the money that he spent on technology and just the dividends that it paid after he spent the money on it. So again, that was a guy, he saw change coming and he put systems in place to prepare for the change. And we all know Walmart, right? I mean, massive corporation. They did 1.2 billion in sales in 1979. I don't remember what year it was, but they also were the first company, I think, to sell over $1 billion in a single day. And they did it on Black Friday, like 25 years ago or something like that. 20 years ago. I can't remember. But anyways, if you find the article on CIO.com called 45 Years of Walmart History, a Technology Timeline from 2007, then you can read a little bit more. I remember I listened to a Founders podcast episode about Sam Walton. That's probably been 6 or 8 months ago, something like that. And there was more information in there. But anyways, there's three examples from history where people were on the cutting edge of changes. They probably were told by multiple people in their family, in their business, consultants, whoever it was, that they were crazy. Yeah. Isaac, thanks for stopping by, man. He says those are big numbers. Yeah. When you think about that kind of stuff and when it was, it's crazy. But yeah, so we had Bill Durant, William Durant, went from the carriages to starting GM. Yeah, there's also a lot of fascinating stuff about him, about how he like got kicked out of GM and he started Chevrolet on his own, separate from GM, and then he somehow wound up back in GM and bought Chevrolet from himself, like as CEO of GM or something. It was wild. His plan was to basically buy all of them, right? He made an offer to buy Ford, to which Henry Ford was like, yeah, you give me so many millions of dollars and I'll do it. And that was just like unheard of money at the time. But anyways, so then we talked about Henry Ford and how he tried multiple times, right? He failed multiple times at starting an automobile company and then just kept going, right? He knew that the change was coming. He knew it was going to be there and just kept pushing. Sam, and we just talked about Sam Walton, so we won't recap that one yet. All right. So like I said, these are all people that embraced and they chased after change, right? They didn't hide from it. They didn't cower down. They weren't intimidated. They may have been intimidated, but they still did it, right? And so maybe they were just they were comfortable being uncomfortable, or whatever you want to say about that. So they went after the change, and we're still talking about them today. A lot of this stuff has happened 120 years ago, 130 years ago, and we're still talking about it. Sitting here right now, little old Powerhouse Fence show. So yeah, I think something important is like, don't wait to embrace change. The time has to be right? But don't wait until it's too late. If you don't take advantage of the change and you don't realize that things are changing around you, you don't want to wait until it's too late, right? So somebody else is gonna do it. And a lot of times early adapters will have a competitive edge, right? So they're gonna have a competitive advantage over everybody else in their market just because they adapt some new technology, some new change. I mean, technology's always been a big thing that a lot of people adapted early on. And today, when we hear the word technology, we think a lot about computers and things like that. But I mean, throughout history, it was cars in a couple of these examples. It was computers for Walmart. Railroad tycoons were big about it, being early adopters of technology. Oil tycoons, like I said, Walmart, they spent absurd amounts of money putting in computer systems when nobody else had it and people thought that they were crazy. So you can go back and look throughout all of history. Well, I don't know about all of history, right? I mean, I guess at some point a caveman picked up a rock and made a knife out of it or something. So maybe throughout all of history, you can see technological advancements. People were not afraid of them. They embraced them. They used the tools that they had available to them and they bettered themselves, their businesses, their families, their futures, all of that by adopting this technology. So it's a big deal, right? So that bring all of that. Let me just bring us all the way to today. So right now, I've been on this mission in our own businesses to adapt some change and some technology that's happening now. So I think that we're we're in what will be referred to as the AI revolution. I believe, right? So we've had these different big booms of things that have happened throughout the course of history. Right now, it's artificial intelligence. Um, Robotics have been around for a while, but now you're getting to the point where you can truly incorporate AI into robotics. I know Tesla is launching, what do they call it? Optimus, their personal help robot, or I don't exactly know how they describe it, but like they're launching Optimus right now. It will run on AI, right? It's not going to be something that has to be programmed. I've looked a lot at like robotic welders and stuff like that in the past. And the challenge with them was if you were setting up to mass produce, in our world, prefabricated fence or gates or something like that, it made sense. So what we do here in our fabrication world is a lot more like a job shop to where, yeah, we might set up and we might build 1,000 or 1,400 feet or 2,000 feet of a specific fence type. But way more often than that, we're setting up and we're building 100 feet or 200 feet or 300 feet. And we're building one 20-foot slide gate and one 18-foot swing gate. I mean, we're not setting up and really mass producing the things like that. And so robotic welders, it always seemed to me like there was more, it took more effort to program them. I'd be happy to have a conversation with someone about this if anybody out there really knows about them. But I've done a little bit of research into them and I've played with a few of them like at trade shows and stuff like that in person. And it never seemed like it was something that would really work that well in our facility, anyways. But anyways, back to AI. So right now, I've been looking at several tools and exploring the possibility of adding them into our business, because I fully intend to be on this leading edge or the cutting edge of using AI in this business. And I have a note here. If anybody wants to race, just let me know. We'll see what we can come up with. But yeah, I'm looking at a couple of tools right now. So recently, I implemented an AI note taker. Right, that's not anything new, but I implemented this AI note taker for Simpalo demos and any kind of like onboarding, tech support calls, stuff like that. So if you do schedule a meeting with me for Simpalo, AI is going to be recording it. It does tell you, but just so you know. So basically, it takes notes, it takes transcripts, it records the meeting. It'll give you like action items. It'll give you an over or a summary of what the meeting was about, things like that. Well, that's all fine and dandy. What I actually want it for is I want the transcripts out of the meetings and I want the summaries out of the meetings because I want to feed them into an AI, into a chat bot, right? And let the AI that's in the chat bot learn. So that way our potential customers, current customers, anybody else can go have a conversation with a chat bot at midnight and they can say, hey, will Simpalo do this? Or how would you do this in Simpalo? How long does this take? And they can have those kind of conversations outside of regular business hours, because me personally, I not always, right? But a lot of times whenever I'm looking into a product or a software or something like that, I might be doing it in the middle of the night, right? It might be when the business is closed that I'm sitting there looking on their website or watching YouTube videos or something like that, trying to learn about them. And I think having this chat bot is a great tool. So I'm playing with it on Simpalo, but I also want to play with that same concept on Memphis Fence Company and try to get something built there that I could have a legit conversation. So Cannon said, like real phone calls. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're saying, Cannon. Um, I will. So, anyways, the chatbot thing is cool, right? And the disappointing thing that where we're not there yet. I don't think, if there's a solution out there, I have not found it. But what I really wanted was, I wanted something that I could just tie in to Zoom and Teams, and it would just watch the meetings and learn from them. Right? Instead of me having to manually take the transcripts, kind of clean them up a little bit, and then go put them into the chatbot. Like, I wanted it to just watch and learn and then build the chatbot itself from that. But I haven't found anything that would do it. I haven't given up on that yet, but I am going the more difficult way. I think we'll get there, right? And I think we'll get there really quickly. I think AI is going to advance a lot in the next 6 months, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. Who knows what's going to be going on? I mean, I bet 10 years from now, you're probably 2/3 of the businesses you call, you're going to be talking to AI. And today you can have AI receptionist and they sound pretty realistic, right? You can probably trick them, and there's probably questions you can ask to figure out that they're not actually a human, but they sound pretty good. So actually, the AI receptionist is the next thing that I've been looking into. And right now, I've I would probably have looked at like 6 or 8 different softwares, different versions, brands, whatever, trying to find one that actually will fill the role that I think it should. A lot of them are, more like after hours stuff, to where they'll just kind of like take down notes and then they'll send it to you. And so those after hours receptionists, I think that's probably worth having for a lot of people. And I would I would look into getting one if I wasn't looking for the full blown version that I'm looking for. Um, I've thought about maybe doing the AI receptionist for São Paulo, but honestly, I don't get a lot of phone calls. Most of the communication is done through social media or emails. AI receptionist, uh, I haven't looked into any that would like automatically reply to any of that stuff, uh, but anyways, so I want one that's going to answer the phone. And yeah, yeah, Seth, I agree. A real person still answers our phones too, but I think the time, and honestly, if you talk to me 6 months ago or a year ago, I would have told you, oh no, man, we're always going to have a real person answer the phone when you call. Like, no matter what, a real person is going to pick up that phone when you call Memphis Fence. And I've kind of am trying to embrace some change, right? I'm trying to embrace technological advancements and things like that. And I think we're almost to the point where it makes sense to do it. If I'm going to change, it's going to be something that's really good. I hate when you call, I despise it so much. When you call and it's like, oh, if you want to talk to someone about a hat, press one. If you want to talk about boots, press two. And then for all other inquiries, press zero and leave a message and we'll call you back. Maybe never. Like that, I can't stand that stuff. So, like I said, if I'm going to put somebody in, and JC Gary says they actually answer their phones too. No offense to anybody who has one of those press one, two, three kind of things going on. Uh, I'm sure there's a reason. I just personally am not a fan of it, and I'm really, yeah. So, like I said, but these are something completely different, right? These are ones that you call, and it's like it sounds like talking to a person, and you just talk, right? You don't have to push buttons, you don't have to dial numbers, you don't have to do all that. You just talk, and so I think I may have found one that you actually can set up and you teach it, right? It learns. And you can actually put your own voice on there. So if I wanted it to sound like me, I could program, give it voice samples, and then it would talk as if it were me on the phone. I don't think I want to do that, um, but basically, what I'm looking for it to do is to answer the phone, right? Find out, and obviously not just directly ask this question, but like find out why the people are calling, right? What type of are they a salesperson? Are they a potential customer? Are they a current customer? What type of what division does their call go to? Things like that. And once I can kind of like get one that I'm confident can do that, then I will put it on as an after hours answering service. So I would have it to where outside of our business hours, it's going to answer the phone. Let it run for a while and just listen to the quality of the calls and see what it's actually accomplishing. You probably would have to, you know, tweak it and refine what it's doing, but I'm pretty confident if I find the right one, I'm going to put it in after hours. And then eventually I'm going to swap it to where it is the person that answers the phone when you call our business. And again, all it's doing is trying to make sure it's a customer, what type of customer, and send it to the right person. And I've seen some stuff to where I think we can find one that will transfer the call. And it's also going to give you a notification of here's the caller, here's their address, here's what they're looking for. And that way, when you get on the phone, there's already been some of that work done. Now, why would I do this? Let's see. Isaac, he said, it's coming like it or not. I almost rather have AI than someone with a strong foreign accent. Yeah, I agree. If it's good AI that I can actually get what I want, I agree. Um, so why would I want to do this? Right. Well, one thing, like Isaac says, is it's coming. Alyssa says, what problem are you trying to solve? So that's what I'm trying to get to. So the problem I'm trying to solve is that have you ever been in the middle of doing something and you're like super focused on the task at hand and then the phone rings and you have to answer the phone and then you talk on the phone for 2 or 3 minutes, right? And then you transfer that call onto someone else and then you go, "Wait a minute, what was I doing?" Right? And then it takes you 10 minutes to get back into that groove again and then you get back in the groove and the phone rings. So that's the reason that I'm trying to do it. All right. So Cannon says, if it can do a better job more consistently, why not? And we provide a better service, perhaps. JC Gary says, our system is all human. Whoever answers the phone will help you. No button pushing. I can see an AI system for after hours. Right. So what's interesting is you have all these different opinions, right? And not everybody's going to agree. And I fully accept that. So I'm not trying to say this is what you should do, right? I'm just trying to share what we're doing or what I'm trying to do. Uh, So, how about this scenario? You ever overheard someone answer the phone and you go, man, I wouldn't have answered the phone like that, or I wouldn't have worded that way. I wouldn't have answered that question that way. They were a little bit rude to that customer. They might have perceived that person as being rude, even if you know them and you know that they really weren't, right? You ever had a situation where a customer thought someone was being rude and that was not their intention? Well, guess what? You put AI in place and you program it to answer the phone the way you want, to talk the way that you want, to respond the way that you want it to. And once you get through that teaching, learning process, it's not grumpy, right? I don't know. I mean, sometimes my computer acts up, right? But I don't think that it can be grumpy. So there's two problems, right? It's not stopping people in the middle of doing something else to answer the phone. And it's not grumpy. It's not going to call in sick. It's not going to quit next week and me have to train another person. What did I hear the other day? I heard a statistic about how much it costs to replace a person. And it was something crazy. Something like 25, 30, 40, 50% of their annual salary is what it costs you to replace them. I've heard like 10 or 15,000 in the past. This number that I heard the other day, well, depending on how much the people make, was different. So Cannon says, you may have talked to a bot already and didn't even know it. That's how good they are. JC Gurry says Skylar. Not sure. So the US Hammer says real is real. That's very true, sir. Real is real. Man, I forgot what I was going to say. What was I even talking about? So, replacing a person, right? So, at least if your AI receptionist is never going to quit, and as long as you pay the monthly subscription, it's not going to quit. It's not going to call in sick. It's not going to have bad days. It's not going to do any of that stuff, right? And so, I think it's great. I don't know if the technology is advanced enough today to make it where I would put it as the main thing that answers the phone. Uh, I'm looking into it. I'm trying to figure out if it does exist. I'm trying to figure out if it is advanced enough to do that, but I'm not positive that it is. However, like I said, I do intend to be on the forefront of this change. And so I think AI 10 years from now, I think is going to be doing a lot more than answering the phone, right? I think 10 years from now, you're going to have AI that answers the phone and it probably is, "Hey, what's your address? Oh, where do you want the fence? Oh, you want it around your backyard? Yeah, so you have an existing fence. What type of fence do you want installed? Oh, you want a 6-foot tall privacy fence? Sure." And I think AI is either gonna give them a price or a budget, right? So it's gonna do the My Salesman pre-qualifying thing, or it's gonna send the call to you, and it's already gonna include a satellite image with the layout drawn on there, the type of fence they want, all of that information. Right. So I think AI is going to be very good at collecting data and saving human time to do other things that AI probably can't. Right. So I think that the future of it, and I have no idea. Right. So I'll tell you a little story about history real quick. So there was a website made, and I don't know what year it was made. I can't remember, but it's called like the $1 million landing page. I think. Let me see if I can find it real quick. $1 million landing page. Maybe it's homepage. $1 million homepage. All right, so let me share this thing on screen real quick. Hold on one second. All right, so here it is. If you can see that, I'll zoom in on. Nope, not like that. Hold on, I'm trying. All right, so if you hover over any of these, right, the best site hosting ever, only $1.99, right? Like these are all just ads. And so this person, there you go, 1,000,000 pixels, $1 per pixel. And I don't remember what year this was done, but it was done a long time ago. Copyright 2005 down there on the bottom. I'm not sure, but it was done a long time ago because people thought that the future of the internet and advertising on the internet was going to be selling ad space by the pixel, right? Which is what this website's doing, right? This is 1,000,000 pixels, $1 per pixel. So whoever built this thing got paid $1 million for this landing page. And they were in college, right? I don't remember the whole story, but I'm pretty sure they were a college student. They built the thing, they sold it, and they were in college. So that's what people thought the future of the internet would be, selling ad space by the pixel. And it doesn't work anything like that today, right? So I think that's where we are with AI. I think we're in a similar situation to where no matter how much people predict what AI is going to be and try to prepare for what it's going to be in the future, I don't think any of us actually know what it's going to be. Let's see, we got another comment from Dan Wheeler. Do you think AI will help level the playing field? Guys who are owner operators could possibly have an office staff cheaper? Absolutely. 100%. And I think the ones that have an office staff right now will have less office staff as well. So I think that that's a big thing. And I don't know if you're, if you're out there in the field, you're working on a fence line, you got an air compressor running, you got your gas powered driver from US Hammer running, you got whatever going on, and you answer the phone with all that commotion in the background. It's the first time somebody calls you, and then they call someone else who maybe they're just driving in their truck, right? But they're not in all of that noise and everything. Who do you think gets a better impression of that first phone call? I don't know the answer to that question, just throwing it out there, right? So if you have an AI receptionist that answers that phone the first time when they call, and they're professional sounding, they're well spoken, they're in a nice quiet environment, they don't have to try to yell at each other, all of that stuff. I think that's a competitive advantage right there. So I think that's going to help level the playing field from the guys that are out there installing versus the people that have someone sitting in an office today. I think it could. So I know AR and VR and all of that. So augmented reality, virtual reality. Like I think those are kind of in their infancy too, right? They're in the early stages, just like AI. And I think it's the same thing. I don't think we know what that technology is going to do for us 10 years from now. I didn't write anything down. I didn't really think about talking about AR and VR, but so we had Drew on here, and gosh, I can't remember the Reality Fence. So we had Drew from Reality Fence on here close to a year ago, I guess. And man, the stuff that they made is pretty cool, right? You just go out with your phone and you draw out a fence and you choose the type and you can show it on your screen, right? So you can show the customer what the type of fence they want is going to look like installed in front of their house. And if I'm not mistaken, they can like walk around and see the inside of it, kind of like simulate walking through the gates and things like that. I mean, there's AR for you working in the fence industry already. Um, so I think all of that stuff is really going to change the way that business operates, right? I think AI is going to change the way it operates. I think robots are going to change the way it operates. I think VR and AR are going to change it to some extent. I have no idea what it is. The point that here's a takeaway, okay, from all of this talk about all of these things. A takeaway is just pay attention, right? Pay attention to what's out there and pay attention to what you could get and implement into your own business. How can you use some of these new technologies in your business to give you the competitive advantage over the guy down the street or the gal down the street? So that's pretty much the takeaway. And to me, that's where I'm at is just pay attention. I'm exploring some different options. Like I said, I've got the AI note taker going on. I'm trying to make a chat bot. I'm exploring AI receptionist. Like I've got some different stuff going on that I'm looking at, but I haven't committed to the AI receptionist, right? But I definitely want to see what's out there. So I see Alan Bolding here. What's up, man? How's it going? He says, I freaking love AI. That's what I'm talking about. I use Chat GPT all the time. I actually today was having a conversation with Chat GPT and I was like, hey, what are some ideas about things I could talk about on this show? And it gave me a bunch of random stuff, as it does sometimes, but sometimes it's really cool. Um, it got me, I found some website that was in the robotic space and they've built a bunch of autonomous equipment for solar farm installations. And they're out there with two excavators that are working in tandem with one another. And they're installing all the posts or the piles or whatever they call them that hold up the solar panels. And I mean, these things have racks built onto them where they're carrying all the posts. They drive out there, they drive down the line, they pick up a post, they sit it in place, they drive it, they move to the next one. Right. It had I saw a bulldozer that they had on their website, and I mean, autonomous stuff is coming too, right? And I mean, those are just adaptations or upfit kits or something like that that can go on equipment. I know Cat, they make one that mounts up there on the top of the equipment. I don't know how good any of that stuff is. I don't know that I would put it on a fence job and turn it loose. But I mean, maybe there's something that's to that point, but I've not seen it. Let's see. US Hammer. Economy. Can AI tell you that they sounded distressed? Yes. So 100%. I don't know what to say about the economy question, but AI can tell you maybe let's say the sentiment of the conversation, right? So some of the AI note takers that exist, they'll categorize different pieces of the conversation and tell you if the person's response was positive or negative. So they definitely would be able to tell you the same thing if you had like an AI receptionist on your phone. But yeah, so I looked into this robotics company that is out there building solar farms. Just put some equipment out there, push go, and it's building solar farms. So I don't know. I don't know what that means for us in the fence world, right? I don't know. Maybe we're all going to be using Tesla robots here in a couple of years, and they're going to be out installing fence, or maybe somebody's going to buy one and put it out there and it's going to fall apart in 3 days because it wasn't built to be in a dirty environment. That's a definite possibility too. I don't know. But like I said, just be aware and just kind of watch out for that stuff. Um, I had some stuff on here about how we stopped doing residential and, kind of how that plays into changes and stuff like that. But we're already a little bit over an hour long, so I don't think I'm going to dive into that. But uh, just, I will just kind of touch on it here for just 1 second because I can't help myself. So we stopped doing residential at the end of 2022. We talked about doing it for so long, and it was always we considered that change, right? And for us, oh man, that was a super radical change, right? We can't do that because we got to have the cash flow that it provides. And I think that was true for some years, right? So, like back in 2013, whenever I bought Memphis Fence, I think we needed every nickel that someone was willing to pay us, right? And so we needed it then. But fast forward to 2022, and we rolled the dice and we got rid of it, and we didn't. It interestingly enough, we never even experienced a drop in revenue going from 22 to 23. So like it was crazy to me. I thought for sure revenue would drop when we got rid of it, but I guess we were able to take the resources that we were using in the residential world and put them somewhere else, right? Um, so didn't hurt cash flow. We really what I did was I looked at the resources that were required to doing residential work versus the net income, right? The profit that came out of residential. And I compared that to what I could do if I applied those same resources somewhere else. So there you go again. Know your numbers, right? I think I've mentioned that like 5 or 6 times in here. So we had residential separated out. We could look at every single job that we did. We can run P&Ls on everything. We have it separated out by class so we could see the class of residential itself and we could take a look at everything, right? I looked at the deposits that we had received versus the money that we had invested in getting projects that were work in progress up to the point that they were. And I was like, oh, there's not really much difference between those two numbers, right? So if we weren't doing the jobs that we were doing, we wouldn't need the deposits that we had in the bank. So kind of took that comparison. Like I said, couldn't have done it in 2013, but I looked at several points throughout over the course of 2021, 22, things like that about the deposits versus the money that we had invested. And it made sense for us. It's not going to make sense for everybody. We have a really strong like a business to business commercial department that does a lot of service work and new installs and stuff like that in Memphis. We do a decent bit of general contractor commercial work. So like we had other things going on. We had a fabrication shop over there where we're doing custom built ornamental fence and gates and things like that. So we had other stuff in place already, right? We didn't just try to stop one thing and start another one. They were already all operating. And so we just got rid of one and put the resources somewhere else. Like I said, it wouldn't have worked at some points. So we had to wait until the time was right. Let's see. US Hammer economy, that low class paid person that does their job every day to day, their bills, but AI took their job. Who's going to pay for that? All right. So interestingly enough, I saw an interview the other day that Elon Musk did, and he was talking about the future of this. And he says, look, he says, eventually what's going to happen is everybody gets, I don't remember the way he phrased it, but basically everybody gets a salary, whether they have a job or not. Right. So if they don't go to work, the government's going to give them like a minimum base salary. Now, calm down. Hear the rest of the story. He says, when AI and robotics and everything else get to the point where that has to happen, he said, all of that stuff is going to be so advanced that everyone's going to have so much surplus that nobody's going to miss the money that's being taken away to give to other people that don't have jobs, right? So he explained it some kind of way like that. He said, it's just going to happen, right? We're as we go more and more and more into AI, people are going to there's going to be less and less jobs available that humans can do. And that will have to happen eventually. But he said the challenge of it is the actual hard part is when you meet someone. This is my little spin on it. So when you meet somebody and you say, "Hey, what do?" You know what they tell you? They tell you their profession, right? Mm, Probably 95% of the time they tell you their profession. So what are you going to do whenever those people don't have a profession? Are they going to something has to give them a purpose in life, right? Like we all go to work, we all do our job. That gives us satisfaction by doing our job. But what are we going to do when we don't have a job to go to and we don't get that satisfaction from going to work? So, again, that was an interview from Elon Musk. Alan says, "Do you actually believe that?" I don't know. Uh, kind of what I was talking about earlier with this $1 million homepage and the AR, VR, and AI. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, right? I don't know if it's ever actually going to progress to the point where there just are not jobs. Maybe. If that happens, are people going to just get like some base salary so that they can survive? Maybe. Who knows, man? Who knows what the future holds? I think it's pretty interesting. Like I said, key takeaway from all of this stuff to me is just look, right? Just pay attention, look down the road, and don't miss the turn, right? Don't run off the end of the road because you were not paying attention to the turn. You were so busy looking at where you are. So, US Hammer, homeless is not a problem. We deal with this all the time. No, it is a problem already. We already have this problem in place, right? So I don't think that we need to progress and make the problem worse. So I don't know. That's for other people to figure out outside of me. Like I understand. And I think that there's a lot of things for people to figure out, including all of us, I guess, have to contribute in some way to figure that out, right? So just like I said, just look forward, look to the future, and just see what's the technology that come and that's going to make a difference between you and the folks down the street. Is I think the the main point of all of it, right? Is just pay attention, see what's coming. And with that, I've reached the end of my speech. And so, thanks everybody for tuning in. If anybody's mid, Seth says it'll be there some form or another. Great to talk about. Yep, I agree. So thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all the comments. It's a lot more fun when people are commenting and asking questions and things like that for sure. So thanks for helping keep me entertained, and hopefully some of you were entertained as well. And I appreciate it. And we'll see you next week. I think I'm not sure about next week. Maybe we'll see you next week. Maybe not. But thanks everybody.